Hey everyone, I am Kristen V. Carter, and this is Trust Your Magic, where I speak to amazing innovators who have trusted their magic and inspired me to trust mine. I am so excited for today's guest. I have been following him for many years, and I'm excited to get into it all. I'm speaking to community activist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Etienne Maurice. Hey, Etienne, how you doing?
What up? I love how you said my name. You said it perfectly.
Oh, you know I had to say it right.
You had practice, huh?
Yeah, no, how you feeling today?
I feel great.
Good.
Every time I say I'm great, it's because I'm reminded that I'm grateful just to be alive.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy to be here, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, before we begin, I just want to breathe with you. Can we do that?
Yes, come on. We're going to breathe good. We're going to breathe good.
So you want to talk me through?
Come on, I got you. All right, so I want you can uncross your legs. There you go, and just relax your shoulders. You don't want to hold on to anything.
Okay.
I invite you to close your eyes, in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth. On your next inhale, you're going to breathe in through your nose. You're going to take another sip of air. Exhale, let it go. One more time, in through your nose. One more time, in through your nose. And then you're going to close your mouth. Exhale through your nose. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
You're
it's good
welcome.
to be
You're
present
welcome.
with you today.
I'm glad. Thank you for even offering the opportunity to even
Absolutely.
breathe before we get into it.
Absolutely. I want to rewind and kind of take it back to your early days of creativity and all of that.
Okay.
You know, how did you get introduced to just creating in general?
Wow, my mom. So my mother, Shirley Ralph, has always been my biggest inspiration and why I wanted to be a filmmaker. I remember applying for college in high school, and I was looking at all the different majors that I had to choose from. I was going to go the English route or history because I just thought that was the safest. And I would always hear people saying, like, you can't get a degree in the arts or in film. And I asked my mom, I was like, well, what should I do? She's like, Etienne, you could do whatever you want. If you want to get a degree in film, get a degree in film and let those opportunities come to you. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. And so I went to school at Houston-Tillotson University in Austin, Texas. It is the first college, the first institution, educational institution in Texas, in Austin, Texas. And I did a bridge program. I studied my senior year of high school at HT, and I spent 2 years there before transferring to Drexel University in Philly and got my undergrad in film. And I remember being in Texas and really just trying to figure it out, like how was I going to navigate this new world that I'm in. I'm not in college anymore. I'm not in high school anymore. And, I was really just figuring it out. And it was around that time when the DSLR cameras were starting to get popular. And I got me a Canon 7D with my graduation money. And I started taking photos around campus in Austin. And I got asked to film for this promotion company. They would host all of the hip-hop concerts in Texas. It was called Score More. And my boy Sasha, he was from L.A., I was from L.A., we made a connection, and then lo and behold, I started filming these tours, these Texas tours with some of the biggest hip-hop names ever to existed, from J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, pre-beef.
Right.
I had the opportunity to really get to know these people before their careers took off, from Mac Miller, Big Sean, Clips. It was so many people who I was fans of, but they weren't the names they are today. And that was my first opportunity of creating and actually telling stories through the lens of like documentary filmmaking.
Right.
But it wasn't really vlogging then, right? It was just like these recap videos that I had the opportunity to document. But before then, I was even... I had a Sony VX2000, and it was like this camcorder camera. I put my mini DV tape in there, and I would just document my high school experience. And that was my entry into telling those stories. And then the transition into college, it kind of amplified those experiences and my passion by documenting the hip hop artists. And then I transferred to Drexel in Philly. And then I was in a community of filmmakers who were just as passionate about filmmaking as I was. And I got to learn about films that I would never have learned about had I not gone to film school. Like,
right.
I am a diehard fan of Korean cinema.
Okay.
I'm a huge, I appreciate Korean culture and Korean films. Like, I knew Bong Joon-ho before he was Bong Joon-ho before Parasite.
Wow.
You know, so it's like I've always been a fan of storytelling, but it was always because my mom planted that seed in me. You know, I remember being young and I would fake sick in school so I could just join her on the set of Moesha.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wanted to say, you know, she was my TV mom. You know, I love Moesha, big fan.
Yeah.
And so what was it like growing up on set? What did you learn about that process?
Oh, man. I grew up having a privileged upbringing. You know, I will be the first to say that, you know, but with that, I got to learn and have a real up close and personal behind the scenes look of how TV was made. And not only was I just hanging out on set, I actually have personal relationships. Like, a lot of the people who were a part of Moesha are family members of mine till this day. Like Shar Jackson, Marcus Polk, you know, those are like legit people who I call like my auntie, my brother. Sarah Finney is one of my mentors. You know, Ralph Farquhar. You know, these are industry Hollywood black sitcom legends, TV legends. And I'm so honored that I still have those relationships even till this day, because they have inspired me in so many ways as a creative as well. But I got to see them work like as a child. And when I was young, I didn't see I didn't see them working as something that inspired me at that time. I was just there having fun. But as I got older and I learned the process of filmmaking and of TV, I started to connect those dots. I was like, oh, so that's what they were doing. I love how even when I was a child, I didn't know exactly what it was they were doing. It has informed everything that I'm doing now on my life's journey.
Right. And the first time I heard your voice actually was on Clubhouse when you hosted that 25th anniversary for Moesha. And I was like, wait a second, I know all these guys up here, but I don't know Etienne. I got to get to know him.
That was fun, man.
Was.
Like, that was really exciting to be able to put that reunion together. Like, it was really funny, actually, because, you know, like you said, Clubhouse was a really big deal for me. Like, Clubhouse was an opportunity, was an outlet for me during that time. While I was building WalkGood, it was also this new, innovative app that allowed me to really put my producing hat on in this new digital landscape of live conversations. And I remember the process of, it was like getting the band back together, you know, and I was texting everybody, sending DMs. I was hitting up, you know, I hit up Ralph Farquhar's wife. I was like, hey, I was onboarding everybody onto the app. And, you know, I remember publicizing it and marketing it and getting people on so that they could at least experience this monumental moment. And it was really beautiful to be able to have Brandy and my mom and, you know, William Allen Young and Shar and everybody onto the app to reflect on how Moesha became this cult classic and has revolutionized how we look at black women, young black women on TV, and to get a really in-depth behind-the-scenes look of people reflecting on that moment was really nice. Like, we had some of the writers on there, we had some of the directors on there, and it was just really beautiful to be able to honor not only the work of Moesha, but my mom's legacy, because, you know, Moesha is definitely a part of my mother's legacy, and I think that has been my driving force subconsciously in my life, is to be able to really amplify what my mother has contributed to, not just TV, not just film, not just Broadway, but the arts in general, you know, because I think I'm learning more and more, being in the Hollywood space, being in the wellness space, that there's always going to be a new generation. There's always going to be somebody coming up. And I think it's important to, you know, teach the next generation what happened, you know, before they were born, you know. And I think Moesha and all the other things that my mom has done in her career, from Sister Act 2 to Dreamgirls, you know, these are like legit moments in time that cannot be forgotten.
Sister Act 2, I watch anytime I'm having a hard time. I actually watched Sister Act 2 this morning while I was getting dressed, because it's one of those movies that is so inspirational to me. It's the reason why I write. It's the reason why I'm in the arts. So thank your mom, but also thank you for just continuing to cultivate community. So when I saw that Moesha was on Clubhouse, I said, wait a second, let me call my friends, let me get everybody on, because that moment for you to say, let me honor my mom, but also let me honor Black cinema, and then moving on to honoring Black men. You have been such a beacon of light through these years, and it's just been awesome to watch your journey. And also, it's like literally 2 degrees of separation. You know so many of the same people. Like, I looked at your shirt and I said, wait, Ron.
Yeah,
Shout
Ron
out to
Bass.
Ron.
This is my brother, man. Like, Ron Bass has been my best friend in the last, 6 years, I would say, 6 or 7 years. And I found this photo, like, when our relationship began. And, you know, Ron had just had this huge billboard with Ellen DeGeneres. It was like her last season, or second to last season, and Ellen was wearing his jacket, and it was this big poster in front of the Warner Brothers stage. And I remember how excited he was when he told me about it. And I was like, bro, we should just go document it. Let's shoot it and put it on social media. Like, that's a big moment. Yeah. And I remember, you know, I just wanted to be of service to him, because I wanted to celebrate his wins. And unfortunately, about a few weeks after that, my best friend had passed away. And she had died of an accidental drug overdose. And her name was Lyric McHenry. And she had passed away, and I was really struggling, and I wanted to do something to honor her life. And we had put together this intimate memorial, and I had the idea to have a poster made. And Ron was the first person I thought about to make it. And, you know, we hadn't known each other for not even, I would say, a month, maybe a month and a half, if that. And he showed up to my doorstep the next day with this beautiful poster. And from then on out, like, I knew that was my brother for life. And he's in my wedding, and, you know, I'm really grateful for Ron, because he's really shown up for me in ways that, you know, I can't even fathom. Like, he's just an amazing person.
I love that. Shout out to Ron.
Shout out to Ron Bass. Ronald Alexander Bass.
So you have such a love of community and bringing people together, celebrating people. Where does that come from?
Oh, man, it comes from my grandfather. So I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. Thank you for asking me this question, because a lot of people know about my grandmother, Ivy Ralph. She is the inspiration for WalkGood. She was the one that reminded me to walk good every time I leave home. But I haven't really talked too much about my grandfather, Stanley Lee Ralph Sr. He was born in North Carolina, and he was beloved by everyone. Like, this man, like, really taught me what it meant to be a Black man in America. He taught me the importance of responsibility. He taught me the importance of the arts. He loved classical music. He raised his family in Waterbury, Connecticut. He raised my mother and my uncle in Waterbury, Connecticut, and they moved to Long Island. He was a principal at Roosevelt High School. Wow. He was Eddie Murphy's principal. He was Flavor Flav's principal. Okay. I believe he was Busta Rhymes' principal, and legend has it is that my grandfather played no games, and I believe it. And if you ask these gentlemen about Dr. Stanley Ralph, they would tell you. So one day when I see them in person, I can't wait to ask them, what was your experience like with my granddad? Unfortunately, he passed away of prostate cancer, but he took education very seriously. He was the music director in the church and so many churches. But he was a man of service. He cared about people caring about themselves. He was a humanitarian. He would travel the world and he would take his choirs all around the world to Senegal. We went on missionary trips to Senegal, Cuba. And he had a real passion for people, and he believed in people. Like just last week, I taught a class at my yoga studio at the WalkGood yard, and a young woman came in and she saw photos of my grandfather and my grandmother in the space, and she said, "Wait, you're related to Dr. Stanley Ralph?" I was like, "Yeah, it's my grandfather." And I could tell she was on the verge of tears, and she told me that she remembered my grandfather when she was young because he was her music instructor. Wow. You know, she remembers him giving her voice lessons and piano lessons, and she remembered how much he demanded excellence from her and from the church community. And it reminded me that the work that my grandfather did in his life was not done in vain. Right. It reminded me that everything that was a part of his life's work was passed down to me through WalkGood. And what's so beautiful about that is my grandfather spent so much of his life supporting my grandmother. My grandmother was an amazing designer, and I learned that my grandfather actually invested in her career to be a designer, to be this legendary influencer in her time of fashion, of Caribbean fashion. She wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to really excel in her craft had it not been for my grandfather. And they really were a family unit. So when I think about my passion for community, my passion for people, I definitely think about my grandparents because they're the ones who encouraged my mother to do the same thing with her organization, the Diva Foundation, and her advocacy work for those who had passed on from HIV and AIDS. Like, I think that burning fire within us to help people really stems from our family upbringing, and it started with our grandparents.
I love you talking about your grandparents. It makes me think of mine. So I grew up with my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother. So there were 5 generations, including my mom. So there were 5 generations.
What a blessing.
Of women. Yes.
What a blessing.
You know, my great-great-grandmother was a teacher. She also, would write to different presidents about issues, like way back in the day. So, that was like, who was doing that back in the day? My great-grandmother was a seamstress. If she had had that support,
amazing.
She would have gone on to do great things. She worked at Singer. And so just hearing those stories that you're sharing makes me think of my family. And it makes sense why you do what you do, because when you carry those family roots, it just inspires you in a different way.
Thank you. It really does. It really does. And I'm really thankful that I have the family that I have. I've always been my sister and I, we were always very connected to our grandparents. We would travel to Jamaica every summer to spend time with my grandmother. It was funny, we would stop in Long Island, in Westbury, Long Island.
And I went to Hofstra.
Wow.
So when you first mentioned Long Island, I was like, oh my gosh, they were.
That 516. 516. That Long Island Turnpike, I'll never forget it. I remember us going to Long Island, and then from Long Island we would go to Jamaica, and that was a summer ritual.
Yes. So where did you learn the art of breathing? Was it in Jamaica? Was it here? Do you remember?
So I learned the art of breathing actually through my cousin, Marley. Marley Ralph is my little cousin. She's my my mom's youngest brother's daughter.
Okay.
And Marley has been my other sibling. So my sister is my little sister, and Marley is literally like my youngest sister. We all grew up together, and there was a time when I went to college that me and Marley's relationship wasn't as close because I was the oldest, the older cousin, and we're like a generation apart, a little like she's on the borderline, like Gen X, I think, or Gen Z. It's the alphabet. I know that she's like not a millennial,
right.
And so, Marley had become like the hippie of the family. Like she was the yogi of the family, right? And I remember when she had got her yoga certification, I was, kind of looked at her like, you sure you want to do this? But I remember how enthusiastic she was about the practice of yoga. And while I was very new to this world, it was a way for us to bond. Like, and this is before WalkGood.
Right.
This is years before WalkGood. Marley would invite me to yoga classes, and I'd show up to her classes before she became an instructor. And I enjoyed this practice. And it wasn't until COVID happened, until George Floyd happened, until Ahmaud Arbery happened, until Breonna Taylor happened, and so many other Black lives that were taken from us, I started to understand the importance of breathing. Because when we were out there protesting, Marley, she would cue us to take a big inhale through our nose and a big exhale out of our mouths. And I remember having this thought like, we're in the park doing yoga, reminding each other to breathe. But the day before, on Saturday, we would be out there in the streets telling each other, like, I can't breathe.
Right.
And I thought, like, this is a beautiful but challenging notion for us to be reminded to breathe, all while being reminded that there are many lives. There are many lives that have been taken from us, and there are a lot of spirits that are no longer able to breathe.
Right.
And I think it made wellness and mindfulness for me, it made it that much more important, because for so long we haven't had opportunities, we haven't had spaces for us to collectively breathe. We'll go on throughout our day and forget to breathe. Right. We're placed in these really uncomfortable positions, and we might get frustrated and we might lose our train of thought out of fear and anxiety, and forget completely to just inhale through our nose and exhale out of our mouth. And I'm learning how important that is, because if you're not breathing, you're not living.
Right.
It's the first thing we have when we come into this world, and it's the last thing that we have when we leave this world. So why not pay attention to our breath? Why not study how we use our breath in certain situations? And our breath, like, it changes throughout the day. Like, that's the one constant thing that will fluctuate, whether you're angry, whether you're happy, when you're at ease, when you're relaxed, when you're on the run, when you're on the go. It's the one thing that is always changing. And so why not learn how to at least regulate it and build a more personal relationship with it, so that you're not put in these frustrating positions, or at least when you're confronted with those situations, you'll have an outlet, you'll have a resource, and you'll have a tool to be able to not be frustrated at least.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it was my cousin. My cousin really encouraged me to take breath and movement seriously, and that's what we do with WalkGood. That's what we do with Breathe Good, our yoga class, is because my cousin has really encouraged me to just breathe, just breathe. And so now it's become my mission to encourage everybody to breathe. She even encouraged my sister, because my sister now is my sister Ivy. She's a breathwork certified instructor. Amazing. Now, and so my cousin Marley has really planted a lot of those seeds within us to really have a more mindful life. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize how revolutionary breathing is. We don't remember, during the COVID years when, we were stuck in the house, then all of these tragedies were happening. I remember for myself, it was the time I was not breathing.
Yeah.
It was the first time I was on the phone with my mom, and she said, your breath sounds really shallow at this point. I got to get you to come home. So, I'm originally from Jersey, but my family is also from Georgia as well. So I went back to Georgia because at that point I was clenched up.
Yeah.
That was when we were having, the what do you call those curfews? We had the curfews going off at 5 p.m.
It's crazy hearing you say that.
Like everything was buzzing. There were helicopters all over the place. And I was like, and I couldn't exhale. So for you all to...
Scary, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
For you all to, take this stance, to be out in the streets, but also to exhale, inhale and exhale, it just reminded me. And also, you just created such a safe space for people, particularly Black men. I've never met any other Black men that have been so powerfully speaking about breathing. So, what has inspired you now to continue with Walk Good?
Oh, man, I think with Walk Good, I've learned that I have responsibility.
Yeah.
Even as a leader, I'm still learning a lot about myself. In regards to community activism, communal healing, because I'm learning that we are now a mirror. We are a reflection for people to be our best selves. So if I'm not being the best to myself, what right do I have to encourage others to be their best selves if I'm not doing it for me?
Yeah. So how do you check? Sorry to cut you off, but how do you check yourself before you even engage with the community?
I have to take accountability. I have to take accountability. Like, it really has to start with me. Like, I'll be honest, like, we had a little situation internally with our group where I was trying to find every reason for why it was happening outside of myself. I was so quick to blame somebody else on my team for the mishap, for the misunderstanding, without looking at myself in the mirror and realizing, it starts with me. Like, how I treat somebody on my team, they're going to pass that on to somebody below them within the team. Right. And then it's not going to function as organically as we like it to. So I think as a leader in this space, I've had to do a lot of work to look at myself in the mirror and be conscious enough that I don't wear myself out or get frustrated with anybody until I check myself first. Yeah. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-awareness to get to that point. But I wouldn't be able to have those opportunities if I don't have those moments and I don't have the team to remind me of that, especially a mentor. If you don't have a mentor that you trust, go get you one. If any leaders in community space, anybody who's running a business, who is leading a community, it's always important to find a mentor who's in that similar space as you, that can kind of course correct where you're moving wrong, because then you won't have to feel so down on yourself or feel like you're making a wrong move, because you'll have somebody who's already been through that journey to kind of help you and navigate that. Yeah. And so that's what happened with me. I had to talk to my mentor, Miss Angelise Eccles from Educating Young Minds, a great nonprofit here in Los Angeles, California. And I was really trying to talk through what I was experiencing, because I believe that at that moment, I believe that she was the best person to help me through it. And she reminded me that it starts with you. And so don't try and put blame on anybody else, because at the end of the day, when people look at Walk Good, they don't look at everybody else. They look at you. And so I'm just taking accountability every day.
Yeah, I love that, and I commend you for that, because I always live by the saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. And so same thing, I'm not in the same space as you, but when it comes to leading teams as a television producer and things like that, I often say, how do I want my team to show up? And I've got to show up in that same space in terms of being respectful, compassionate, empathetic, all the things that are not on the resume, right? It's about, how am I showing up as a person, because that's what's going to get people to really move and to motivate them and encourage them. It's like the things that are not on the paper, the nuances about having fun, being joyful, being someone that's receptive to learning.
I love that you said that too. Could you imagine if we put all those traits about us on the resume, and if our employer could see that and see benefit to that? Right. Yeah, I'm a kind-hearted individual that sees people for who they are, and I believe that I'm the best person for this job. Yeah. We're going to change that. We're going to change that.
You know what? And I wish they did, because it's all the stuff that's not on the paper that makes the difference.
It does.
For sure.
It does.
For sure.
It definitely does.
So I have seen and just witnessed, the expansion of WalkGood. You now have WalkGood Yard, which I'm so excited about. So tell me about what made you decide to expand, and do you feel like you're in your life's purpose now?
Every day, it's like I'm starting to see the divine in everything, and how everything that all my relationships, all my choices has always brought me back to the present moment. When I think about the expansion of WalkGood, I remember when we had 400, 500 people in the park at LA High Memorial Park doing yoga, black and brown folks and people of all different cultures and backgrounds doing yoga in the park. I realized, this is a need. This is something that people need in their lives, because they're starting to feel something. I don't know if it was spiritual. I don't know if it was physical. Maybe it was all of it. But I remember having conversations with my sister, with my cousin, about having a studio space. But I remember very early on that it wasn't the right time. And I reassured everybody. I said, there's going to come a time where we're going to press that button, and it's going to happen at the exact moment that we need it to happen. And then I got that call from Propel and from Michael's team, and they brought me to Soho Warehouse, and they sat me down, Leo and Yaz. They were like, man, we want this partnership. We want this to feel authentic. We want this not only to feel authentic, but be authentic, because we really want to support you in a real way. And they were like, well, we would love to sponsor one of your programs, but we really want to create longevity for you guys. So what do you need? And it was at that moment I was like, we need a studio. We need a space. And I started thinking about, what would a space look like for WalkGood? How will we house our programs in this space? And the answer was through community programs, where we won't just have yoga classes, we won't just have mindfulness classes, but we're going to have, panel discussions. We're going to have group therapy classes. We're going to have spaces for massage therapists to rent out the space. We're going to have our run clubs to meet at this space. And we now have our own space, the WalkGood Yard, in Country Club Park. That's right off the corner of Norton and Pico. It's 3 blocks east of Crenshaw. I know a lot of us are directionally challenged, but I like to be as specific as possible so people know their neighborhoods in Los Angeles. So you could always find us at the WalkGood Yard, because God said so. Yes. That's how I like to say it.
And there's so many people I'm thinking of who have either been to the yard or been out at the park. Justin Riley. That's
my brother. He's the chair on our board.
Really? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, shout out to Justin.
Friends. Yes, with Justin and Joy, Tristan Wilds.
Yes, that's my brother. He's also the best man at my wedding. In my wedding, yes, he's also on our board.
Okay,
it's a family affair.
Yeah, and then Brian Henry.
Yes, Brian Henry. That's my dog. He has been a huge support. He's DJ'd at WalkGood. He's also another person who's big in the community space as well.
So it's just so powerful. You got a lot of really amazing, dynamic men and women.
Thank you.
And I also definitely want to shout out your sister. Yes. We share share a middle name, which I'm very excited about. Yes, I was doing a little research. I was like, "Ooh, Victoria."
Yeah. So it's Ivy Victoria. It's hyphenated.
Yes.
So Ivy because of my grandmother on my mom's side, and then Victoria because of my grandmother on my father's side, and then Julia is her actual middle name, and then Maurice because of my father.
Yes,
so
yes, I love that.
Yes.
And
but I love how y'all share a name.
I know, and then Victoria for me comes from my great great grandmother.
Wow.
So I mentioned the 5 generations. So my mom and I have that middle name, and then one of my baby cousins, and that comes from my great great grandmother Candace Victoria.
I love that.
I absolutely love that. So tell me, I have just a couple more questions for you. So being an entrepreneur and moving around this space, moving around LA and all over. How do you breathe through challenges? How do you breathe through, adversity?
This is a great question. I breathe through challenges and adversity because it's not even because. I breathe through challenges and adversities because I know I've been through some of the darkest experiences anyone has ever gone through. So I'm always reminded that whatever I'm going through, it's not as bad as I think it is. And I remember I was listening to a podcast with Trevor Noah, and he had mentioned his mother says anytime they're put in a real difficult situation, his mother says it's just God sharpening her. And I think that is really true in my life because I feel like I'm always up for any battle, and I always approach any situation with a sense of stillness and calmness and reasoned, and also with compassion. And I think that has been my superpower. That has been my way I've been able to really deflect any situation. But I really believe in that. I really believe that I can be faced with any challenge because I'm prepared for it. I think when I think about the times when I was going through my addiction with drugs and alcohol and having been sent to the psych ward, I survived that. When I think about me getting shot in my leg, 11 months after my mental episodes, having survived that, I know I can get through anything. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. Not to say that, I'm ignoring those challenges and those traumas, because I'm not. I think being able to really empower myself and look at myself and say, Etienne, you can do it. You got this. You are strong, has given me all the strength in the world, because I know that I've had, and I know I have ancestors that are protecting me. I know that I have generations of family who have prayed for me, who have really uplifted me, and who have guided me to seek my biggest potential. When I was young, I used to really hate that word, potential, because I would hear it after all my report cards. My teachers would always say, Etienne has so much potential. He's a natural born leader, but if only we can get him to not talk as much in class, if only we can get him to just pay attention a little more. That would frustrate me so much, because this word potential was like a trigger word for me, where I felt like it was a reminder that I wasn't reaching my potential, when deep down inside I knew that I had something more to offer. And it wasn't until after I had experienced my DUI, it wasn't until after I had experienced my gun violence situation, where I was able to find out that I had ADD. I had something that was, I wouldn't say it was something that was wrong with me, but it was something that was preventing me from reaching my potential. And I asked my mom recently, and we were talking about, my upbringing, and she asked me, Etienne, did I traumatize you in any way? And I said, no, you didn't traumatize me, but I felt like I was held to a different standard than you expected me to rise above. And I felt like there was not enough compassion for me because I had ADD and it didn't go checked until I had developed these coping mechanisms that wasn't benefiting me. And she told me something very interesting. She said, well, had I known everything that we know now in regards to mental health, I would have approached it way differently. We would have set proper plans in place to make sure that you were taking care of your mind, because it really affected me. I didn't know that I was depressed in school or really sad, because I was running away from things through weed and through other drugs and alcohol. That was my escape, and I didn't, it had gone unchecked for far too long until it got to the point where it almost cost me my life. And I think that was the biggest shift in how I was able to at least acknowledge that I was going through some really tough times. So, I know there's a long-winded answer, but it makes me think a lot about, the choices I've made, and I've been able to right those wrongs because I've been able to really reflect and breathe.
Right. No, and I appreciate your transparency with that. So do you feel like the gun violence situation was your wake-up call?
Oh, yeah, really 100%. Yeah, okay. Like, getting shot, I would hope, would wake anybody up. Yeah. I think now, while we see society and we see social media, I think a lot of us have become numb to violence. I think we've become so used to seeing people get hurt that we feel like we're kind of like it would never happen to us. And when I think about gun violence specifically as it relates to, society as a whole, we've gotten too comfortable with thinking that violence is a way of life. We've gotten too comfortable in thinking that this is just the way life goes. There should be no reason why there are bombs being dropped in Gaza. There should be no reason why bombs are being dropped in Sudan. There should be no reason why bombs should be dropped in any place of land. I feel like we all have a right to live a life full of joy and happiness without being persecuted for our beliefs. I feel like if we as a people could all come to one understanding that love is the answer, then I feel like we'll have a much better understanding of human life. Not even just an understanding of human life, but a respect for human life. And I have too many friends who have suffered at the hands of gun violence, that suffered from a choice that someone made that affected someone else's life. And when I think about the mere fact that I survived, it is instilled this purpose in me to use my platform not only for myself, but for the betterment of humankind. And so I really hope that in this near future that we can get a better grasp on this this idea that I need to protect myself with a gun, and maybe we can shift this idea to maybe we can protect ourselves through spirit. Maybe we can protect ourselves through prayer. Maybe we can protect ourselves through meditation. It doesn't have to be with a gun, because in many ways, you're inviting that energy into your life. You're inviting this, feeling that I need to be on edge. I need to protect myself from all evil. There are many ways in which you can do that without a firearm. Right. But it's also within the culture of American society. Like when we think of the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, it's literally in our national anthem. War is in the cultural fabric of these United States. Slavery, violence, literally our lives have built this country. Our ancestors built this country. And so when I think of violence, it's going to take a long time for us to get to a place of peace, but that gives us no right to give up. And I think WalkGood is instilling that belief in people in a real, genuine way to not give up. Don't give up on yourself, but let's not give up on each other.
Right.
Because we can be the people that we've wished for. We can be the people that we've hoped for. But we cannot forget to believe. And I think it's, when I think about, we've been talking about what has inspired me, it is the belief that I can be better tomorrow that has been instilled in me, that has kept me pushing. And I think a lot of us need that right now. And so if I can do that with my platform, if I could do that with my story, if I could do that with my spirit and my purpose, then so be it.
Yeah. My heart is just bursting right now because your work is cutting through.
Thank you.
And there's so much distraction and disruption and all the things, but then there are people that are lights, and you are truly lighting the place up.
Thank you.
When I think about your family and what Cheryl Lee Ralph has meant to me, her example, just to see her shining, to see your sister, your cousin, you, is such an honor and a privilege. And I hope that you feel inspired and you feel loved and you feel seen.
I do.
I
do.
And I'm just so grateful for you guys for just keeping close to the mark, remembering why you're here, remembering, why you're an example. And it's just wonderful to witness WalkGood and WalkGood Yard and all the goods.
Thank you. All
Run
the
good,
goods,
breathe
all
good,
the goods.
all of them.
Yes, it's all good at WalkGood.
I love it. I love it. So, one final question before we get out of here. How do you trust your magic?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I trust my magic by following my intuition. I follow my gut. I follow my spirit. There are these little ideas, and there's this little voice that I get in my head that tells me to do certain things, and we all have it. Yeah. I would say trust your voice. But for me specifically, all the beautiful things that are happening in my life is because I trusted my intuition. I trusted that little voice in my head that told me to bring people together in a park. I trusted my instincts. I trusted God to guide me in a path where I didn't know where I was going, but I kept walking. And so I think that's my magic. I think that has kept me going is trusting my gut and my intuition, and that's how I've found my magic.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to share with the people?
Oh, man. Go get your WalkGood sneaker with On Running out now.
Did you design them?
Yes. So my sister and I, we designed these shoes right here. These are the WalkGood shoes.
Okay.
With On. They're an amazing company, shoe company. On is actually one of our first corporate sponsors for WalkGood. And so they reached out to us and they're like, do you want to design a shoe? Because they had been supporting our organization a year prior, and they wanted to figure out a way that which we could maximize our collaboration, our partnership. And so they asked my sister and I to design this, and we have a whole capsule. We have shorts, we have shirts, and we have a track jacket. And we use this shoe to, again, honor our legacy, honor our grandmother. I'll take off the shoe and I'll show you. Actually, inside it says Grandy on it. So that's what I call my grandmother. And so, Ivy Ralph lives on forever through the WalkGood shoe and through the mission of WalkGood. As you can see, we got the Jamaican flag on there next to the Swiss flag. There's a Swiss company. And then inside the sole, you got the WalkGood logo in there. So, and it got the Walk Good colors. You know, it's a whole neutral little design. These are the samples, so I've been wearing them a lot. But
Grandy is literally walking with you.
She's walking with me. She's walking with me everywhere I go, every step of the way. So yeah, shout out to On.
And where can we find these?
You can find these on.com. So please support, buy a pair On shoes, specifically buy a pair of Walk Good On shoes, because it's going to support the mission even more. So walk good in your own Walk Good shoes. We're doing some amazing things in the community. And if you want to support, you want to donate to Walk Good, make sure to donate, WalkGoodLA.org. Sign up for a class at the WalkGoodYard.org. While we have memberships right now at an affordable rate, we want to make sure that wellness is accessible for all people. And so the goal is to make sure that, people aren't confined with a financial burden to participate in any wellness activity when it relates to Walk Good. So the goal is to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to find community and to strive for a better body, a better mind, and it is my hope and prayer that we continue to grow as an organization, as a community, as a family, by reminding people to walk good.
Okay, awesome. And you mentioned something that just got me really excited. So what is your ultimate vision with Walk Good?
That is my ultimate goal, is to make sure that healing is accessible for everybody. I think for so long we have been marginalized. We have been bastardized for even wanting to have a better life. And I think we're all trying to figure out, where is a space where I belong? And as we build the Walk Good Yard, as we build Walk Good LA, I want to continue to develop the blueprint where we can take Walk Good all over America, all over the world, where people can step into our space of peace and love, of community, and feel like they belong, where they can simply just be. So that's my goal, is to make it accessible, make it free, make it filled with love and filled with compassion and kindness, and in hopes that people will find space where they belong. And so we're going to take it all over the world, but it starts right now, and it starts with us.
Yeah, I'm so excited, because what I'm seeing in this moment is, international retreats.
Come on now. Yes.
Young people.
And we getting there.
Read Good, where you have young boys.
Literacy
reading,
program.
Literacy, all of that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you, and I love that you are using all of yourself. Thank you for just your vulnerability and sharing who you are. I'm seeing you write a book.
Yes. Come on now.
Let's go.
Speak on it. I just need to find time. I think I just need to find some time.
You gotta gradually, but what I see is this path opening up, and I'm just so grateful for your contribution, and I'm glad you reminded me to breathe. I hope you always remember to breathe, because we need you.
Thank you.
We need your family. I love y'all, the Ralphs and the Maurices. I love y'all, because when I watch, when I watch you all, I'm like, they are good people, and you are everything that I thought you would be before you sat in the seat. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Walk good.
So if you like what you listened to or watched, please subscribe, and we will see you next time. Peace and love, everybody.